Hello, genealogists. This is Craig, and this is Just Genealogy. And today we're going to talk about Daniel Waldo. Again, I'm afraid that my attempt to use Daniel Waldo as a genealogy skills test didn't work out very well, since no one actually answered the second part of the questions that I had about him. The first part, I did end up with a new photo of Daniel Waldo, and I'm very thankful for that. So I'm now up to 3 photos of a Revolutionary War soldier, Daniel Waldo, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to collect more. One day I may actually own a photograph of Daniel Waldo, but that will come in time, I imagine. Here's Daniel. And remember, he was born in 1762 and died in 1864. The Reverend Hilliard did in fact try to visit him, but he arrived at his house after his death. But he included him in the biography of him in The Last Men of the Revolution, a book that, again, I've held in my hand and regret ever since not purchasing it when I had it. We know that he was born in Windham, Connecticut. And we know that he was drafted at 16 for 1 month, and then he later enlisted, and he eventually was captured and taken prisoner and was in one of the Sugar House prisons in New York. And after the war, he became a congregational minister, married and had several children. And we know there are lots of pictures of him out there. And I have 3 now. So when we put it all together, he's a private, Captain Nathaniel Wales Company, Levi Wells Regiment of Connecticut service. And he's on a list of prisoners taken on the morning of December 10th, 1780. And we know about his actual capture. So now that we have his pension, we can do some things. One of the things that we're going to look at is he has a Revolutionary War claim, which means he got a pension. And of course, his pension is on fold 3, and there are pieces of his pension. So when we look at his pension, we see that the words Connecticut is crossed out. This is the actual pension itself. That envelope that we saw previously is just something created later. This is the actual pension jacket. And we see that he's got some places crossed out. One of them is New York. One of them looks to be Albany. So we know that he traveled a little bit. So what we want to do is try to track down the traveling. And this is where we left off. Well, we had this thing called Ledgers of Payments, 1818 to 1872. And it's on Ancestry, or it's on microfilm, being T718, 23 rolls. And again, this is a better picture from fold 3 of that same piece that we just looked at, which I had photocopied years ago. And here we see New York crossed out, we see Connecticut crossed out, and then New York not crossed out. So these are all possibilities. So we know he's on the roll of Connecticut under the Act of 7 June 1832. And now we're going to go to this key that deals with those pension ledgers. And this is something that I put together a few years back based on some stuff that I found in the National Archives. They had one key there, and I worked on it to improve it a little bit. And here we see Revolutionary War Pension Act. 1832 is what we're interested in. And there are also invalid pensions there. There are also widow pensions there. So everything that relates to the Revolutionary War or invalid pensions of the time period, so you may get some more of 1812 stuff is there. And when we look at Connecticut, we can see the various years. And we know that he's under the Act of 1832. So he's somewhere in E, H, or I, or maybe J, in regards to the rolls. And when we go to Ancestry, and I always recommend you use the card catalog and just type in 1818-1872, and that will take you to the right place. That will take you to these pension ledgers that are on this microfilm, because they're on Ancestry. And here we see Connecticut. This is the page that Waldo is on. And when we blow it up a little bit, we see that we have years here, 1831, 1832, 1833, 1834, March and September. And what happens is you're eligible for payment in March and September of every year. Now, he's under the Act of 1832, but it in fact was retroactive to March of 1831, and that's why it looks like that. So what you'll see on these ledgers are the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those stand for quarters of payment. March is first quarter, September is third quarter. So when you see somebody who's in the fourth quarter, you know they weren't in a big hurry to get their money. And if you'll notice here, you'll see that there's some numbers above, like for example, about 8 numbers in, it says 34 over 3. Well, that means that they came and got this 1833 payment in 1834. In other words, it just talks about, that's how you can differentiate. If there's no number above it, it matches the year. If there is a number above it, it may be that they're backtracking a little bit. So when we look at Daniel Waldo and what it has to say, we see him in Connecticut all the way up through 1849, 1850, 1851, and that he has a payment in the third quarter of 1851. But after that, he transfers to Albany, New York. So we have him first in Connecticut, and now he's transferring to Albany in 1851. And then we can look at the New York list and see the acts of 1832, and we see them as I and J on here, and also, but then that's New York, and then there also is Albany, G, I, and J, so 1832. Now there is more. You'll also see that there's Brooklyn, there's Buffalo, but he's in Albany. So when we go to the New York page for Albany that has Daniel Waldo in it, and again, we got to this through Ancestry, through the card catalog, by searching for Daniel Waldo in this 1818 to 1832 ledger. So here we have Daniel Waldo, private, and it shows him in Albany. Now, among his papers, you will find an application for transfer. So here he is transferring from the state of Connecticut to the state of New York in June of 1852. So now we've got him in New York, in Albany, and then we have him transferring to Hartford, Connecticut in September. We also find that he transfers to the District of Columbia. So when we look at the District of Columbia, we find him, Daniel Waldo, for a short period of time in the District of Columbia, like a year, and then he transfers back to Albany. So here he is in Albany. In 1853, 1854. So we have him in Connecticut, we have him in Albany, we have him in the District of Columbia, and we have him in Albany. There is, in fact, a bill for Daniel Waldo in the legislative papers, and basically this bill provides him a pension increase. The reason that he has a pension increase is because he was a chaplain of the House of Representatives or the Senate. I actually don't remember, but he was a chaplain in the Congress for this short period of time. And I think what actually happened was he was not exactly pro-slavery. Some people weren't happy with him. He couldn't keep his mouth shut or something, so he got sent back to Albany and was replaced because he was one of those abolitionist types in a time when the world of our Congress did not want to hear that kind of stuff because it caused friction. Here we find his final payment voucher, and that asterisk up there, if you remember my conversations about these before, means that it was found. So here's Daniel Waldo in Albany, New York in 1832, being paid on the fourth quarter of 1864. But remember, he died on the 30th of July, 1864. So that means that his heirs are getting something. So when we pull that jacket, it looks something like this. And inside it, there's paperwork. And basically what we find is that his heirs came in and they got his final payment. Daughters mentioned. So by using these pension ledgers that are found on Ancestry, also found on microfilm in T718, you can trace an individual from one place to another, much like you could with a census, except a census is every 10 years, but the pension ledgers are every 6 months. So what we've actually done is successfully traced Daniel Waldo from Connecticut to Albany, to Washington, D.C., and then back to Albany, where he will die in 1864. So, this has been Craig. This has been Just Genealogy, and Daniel Waldo has been put to bed. If you can find another picture of Daniel Waldo, let me know. If you have any questions, please ask them, because I know that this is difficult. Remember that I did a book on how to do this, and I guess what I can do is I'll put that book on sale for a 40% discount, and the code will be Waldo40. And see if you can find that book. You may have to hunt for it. I have to make up for the fact that nobody answered my query in regards to where did Daniel Waldo exist. So, again, this is Craig. This is Just Genealogy. Subscribe. Ask me questions. Let me know what books you want. Tell your friends, and we'll keep moving along. Have a great day.